Welcome back to this special coverage of the visit of Pope Francis to Kenya. Of course, very exciting day across the country, and we're having the discussion now. What does this visit mean to us as Kenyans? What should our take-home be? And of course, we've got in studio Reverend Father Dr. Frederick Njoroge, chaplain at Moi University, as well as a director of Upendo FM in Eldoret. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Chris Wamalwa, Honorable Chris Wamalwa, Member of Parliament for Kiminini, Deputy Whip of the Minority, as well as tonight he's here with us in his capacity as the Vice Chair of the Catholic Members of Parliament. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us tonight. A very short but powerful speech by Pope Francis earlier today, and of course we felt the excitement across the country, and his speech drawing very parallel lines with, of course, St. Francis of Assisi: environment, youth, poverty, family, integrity. And I just want to find out, as we kick off this conversation, what is your take home from the Pope's speech tonight?
It was a great message for Africa. It was a great message for Kenya. He touched on everything that is going on in our country, and he touched it in a very subtle way. In a very subtle way. I mean, he didn't want to punch so harshly, but he was soft, and the message was home. And it resonated very well. The president straight away didn't beat about the bush. He said exactly what the Pope said when he took over the helm. Pray for me to combat corruption in this country. And immediately the Pope responded. These vices have to be gotten out.
All right, and of course we'll come into the details of that conversation. What stood out for you, Momalo?
I think, to me, first and foremost, I want to say that I'm a very excited person, and I think majority of the Kenyans are very, very excited. And I think today's Pope's message, to me, it's like a prescription, a solution to the problems that this country has been facing. And if at all we're going to take his message seriously, I don't think the problems that we've been facing, like corruption, inequitable distribution of resources, is going to be a thing of the past. And one thing I was happy about the Pope is the way he delivered his message compared to Barack Obama, the head of state of the United States, the way he was here. It was more of lecturing. The way the message was delivered, it was delivered in a humble manner. Even those people who've been doing these vices have no doubt that they're going to change. Look at the way he came in a Honda. Of all the vehicles, this is a car that maybe is for the lower level. We have the lower, the average, and the upper class. I'm sure the CCC of that car is something like 2,000 and less.
Actually, 1,300.
Look at that, 1,300.
Yeah.
This is my first car was actually 1,500. So this is a message to the Kenyans, in particular at such a time of wastage. We do not need to have these wastages. We are seeing the executive moving around the big cars. This is a big message. I was seated next to the governors, and they were actually very shocked. I was in Philadelphia when the Pope was in the US. He used a Fiat. Look at the simplicity. Look at the humility. This is the servant leadership. And I have no doubt that the leaders that were there, they are getting this message home, that they have to change and provide servant leadership. Issues of simplicity.
But are your colleagues in Parliament willing to take that message home?
I have no doubt that they're going to take that message home. I saw the excitement. If it were in Parliament, should have been given a standing ovation. But this time, because we were seated in the State House, we didn't understand the environment very well. But when I looked at their faces, everybody was excited. How humble the Pope is. So obviously I can tell you, when we get back, we're going to see changes. All right.
Let's talk about the heightened spirituality that we are sensing across the country, and we're of course getting responses on Twitter, on our social media. Some people saying it is a time for the country to sit down, reflect, and take home the tenets of spirituality and how that can change how this country is run. Where do you think the place of religion is in light of the Pope's visit in Kenya?
What Professor Mbithi said many years ago is coming true. Africans are madly religious. We are religious deep down from inside. I think that the Pope stressed in his speech. He said there are very strong values in the African people. And our values emanate from the spirituality that we have in our traditions. And these spiritualities have merged now into what we have as the Christian religion. So I think what we are seeing is very genuine. It's very genuine that people are flocking into churches. People are flocking into churches. You go in most places, like now in our dioceses, new parishes are being opened. Like now in the diocese of Eldoret alone, just a few months ago, the bishop opened 4 new parishes. Last year he opened another 4 new parishes. Within 2 years we're having 8 new parishes, and these parishes are getting numbers. You go to Holy Family Basilica. You know, I once had a priest come from America. He's over 35 years as a priest. He was shocked. At 6 a.m. every morning in Holy Family Basilica, the church is packed just like on Sunday.
All right.
And the second mass, it was about the same thing.
Okay.
So I think we're madly religious.
All right. And of course, we must recognize that Kenya is a country of many religions. And I'm just wondering, from a parliament and a leadership point of view, you sit, you know, on the committee of members of parliament who are from the Catholic religion. Does religion play any role? You know, we know that in recent days the president has alluded to God in some of his speeches, saying, you know, sin should be, you know, labeled as, corruption should be labeled as a sin. Where is the place of religion in leadership?
First and foremost, I want to say this, that personally I was very impressed when His Excellency the President said that he is calling upon the Pope to pray for him as he leads this country. When you read the Bible, we're told that leaderships come from God. And we want to acknowledge the issue of prayer. That means it's religious in its sense. So, as far as legislation is concerned, before that, I want to mention that last time we had an opportunity to meet the Pope at the Vatican. We have an association called the Catholic Members of Parliament, and normally every year we go to Rome to meet other members of Parliament who are legislators in other countries, in Europe, in America, in Asia, Africa. We meet there, and the end of the day, end of the workshop, we normally have an audience with the Pope. And I remember last time the Pope told us this, that when you enter Parliament to legislate, do not leave the Christian faith at the door. Go to Parliament, go and legislate, and go legislate there in line with the Christian teaching. That tells you the role of religion when it comes to legislation. And members of Parliament are religious. For example, every Wednesday, we normally have Mass in Parliament. The Catholics have their Mass. We have the other denominations, they have their Mass. So this tells you the kind of leadership we're looking at. Even right now, when you go out there to campaign, Kenyans want to know, is this person a church person? Things have totally changed. As Father puts it, when you go to many churches, you are seeing many people coming. Actually, when you go to Europe and when you go to America, you don't see many people coming to church. I've gone to church in Washington, D.C., and I saw there are about 45 or maybe 50 maximum. But here, go to St. Paul's, go to Holy Family Basilica. We have hundreds. That tells you the issue, the role of the church. And one critical thing I want to say is that people want to look at the leaders who appreciate God. This is the time we need intervention of God. And
but you know, on that thought, and I'm sorry for cutting you short, there is also the thought that, you know, members of Parliament or politicians, you know, take advantage of the fact that there's a large voting population within the churches, within, you know, other religions as well. I don't know.
I don't think they take advantage, because we've seen members of Parliament, even at times when they are doing the campaigns, they've gone to church for spiritual nourishment, to be prayed for. I don't think it's taking advantage. It's only that maybe it's an opportunity where you'll get big numbers, where you can be able to talk to them and maybe sell your manifesto or what plans you have for that particular constituency. But I don't think members of Parliament take advantage. They've been working very closely with the church in terms of construction of churches. For instance, in my constituency, I work very closely with the pastors, the priests, you know, like development funds like CDF. It doesn't have a provision for the church. So really, we are doing fundraisings in terms of building the church, maybe having the seats, having the keyboards. I had so many of my people from my constituency who have come here to Nairobi even to record their music. So that doesn't mean that we have any conflict, but we are We are working together as a one nation to take this country ahead.
All right. And we need to wind up, so I need to take your final thoughts. And you know, what would your word be to Kenyans, Father?
Kenya is it's got a very big youth population, and the Pope is saying to Kenya that with a population of over 60-something% of youth, there is a lot of wealth, there is a lot of richness, and we need to tap this wealth. We need to tap these resources. He said, we are endowed with a number of things. We have got a beautiful country, but we've got very important resources in the youth. So our future, our wealth is in the youth.
All right, Mheshimiwa, your final thoughts?
There are two critical things I want to say. One, as Father puts it, the youth are the future generations for this country, and the Pope talked of hope. These are the vulnerable groups. If you look at the people who are bringing the issue of extremists, youth radicalization, these are the youth. So it is important to give them hope as far as their aspiration is concerned. And lastly, the most fundamental thing that the Pope talked about is the issue of upholding integrity and transparency. And this is a challenge to the current leadership. This is a solution to the corruption we have in this country. The people responsible in line with the leadership, they should look at the issues of upholding integrity, the issues of accountability, as it's outlined in Article 10 of our Constitution, which talks about the principal values. And it's indeed important that the Kenyans must be able to walk the talk. This is my challenge, His Excellency the President, because he was there, he asked for the prayers, and we're also praying for him. And I'm happy that he requested for the prayers. So we want him to walk the talk. He mentioned about the issue of equity. Equity is very critical, that there must be equitable distribution of resources, and all Kenyans need that distribution. We're looking at the cabinet. We're requesting him to look at the issue of the gender, because the current gender, the way it's constituted, actually it's very unconstitutional. I thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Chris Wamalwa, Member of Parliament, Kiminini, in his capacity tonight as the Vice Chairman of the Catholic Members of Parliament. Thank you so much for joining us on the show. And Reverend Father Dr. Frederick Njoroge, Chaplain, Moi University, as well as the Director of Upendo FM in Eldoret. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We are taking a short break, and of course we'll be reading some of your comments as we wind up in just a moment. Remember, the hashtag is Pope in Kenya, and do send us an SMS on 22422. Do join us shortly.
Yote nitangaze